Welcome to today's session on practical guide to crafting a winning research proposal. Most of you have attended previous workshops with me. This one is different. It's advice and guidelines on how to write your research proposal. I really hope it will be insightful for you. So over the next hour or so, we will go through these elements. So the goal for today's session is to understand the key elements of a research proposal. You will get to know what are the main elements that I need to fulfill as a research. And I need to learn how to define a strong research problem and what strategy or framework should we follow in writing a good research problem, because believe me, a good proposal without a good research problem is going to be fail. And this is where many of the examiners will comment to you that there is no research problem whatsoever. I cannot see your research problem. Okay, so we will get to know how to write a proper research problem. And then we will get to develop SMART research objectives. SMART means something that we need to follow. I will explain that later on. And then we need to align these research problem with the methodology part. And finally, we need to structure a well-organized research proposal. Always deal with academia or any research writing pieces as a story. Okay, it's a story. You need to be a good storyteller. All right, when you become an academic, it means that you need to be able to write well, and you will not be able to write well unless you read a lot. Okay, before we begin, let's introduce myself a little bit. I am Dr. Hassan Mahmoud Abu Hasna. I am an associate professor and program leader for ODL, Open Distance Learning and School of Education, Sunway University. Previously, I was a senior lecturer in UTM University Technology, Malaysia, and I have supervised quite a number of master and PhD students with a good record of publications as well. So let's dive into our research proposal. First of all, any idea what research proposal is? Because we have different of research proposals. We have a PhD research proposal. We have a grant research proposal. We have a project research proposal. But all of them have something in common, right? That we need to introduce, which is the main contribution and the research gap and the research problem, the objective of this research proposal. Okay, so any document that outlines what you intend to research, why it's important, the significant, and how you will conduct the research, which is the methodology. If these three parts are there, this is called research proposal. So what do we mean by what you intend to research is the objectives that we need to have. So you need to have a very clear research objectives. And why it's important? It's the significance of the research. You need to come out with a very convincing justifications that this research is actually worth conducting. Okay? Now, what are the very common mistakes? Now, before we go to the main, let's say, structure of how to write a research proposal, we need to know where is the weaknesses among the students in writing a research proposal. There are common mistakes in research proposals that we have been, dealing with among the students that we either supervised or examined. The very common mistake is the research problem. Research problem is one of the biggest struggle, challenge that the student will always have, simply because they don't know the proper structure of the research problem. They usually come out with reasons, not a research problem. I've been reading a lot of my work, my students' work, and mostly because I am from education. They would be from, schools, school principals, teachers with a wide experience, right? So one of the biggest challenge for them is to write the research problem. Why? Because they want to reflect the research problem among themselves. I've been teacher for 20 years and I noticed this and that. Okay, this is good, but this is not a research problem. Research problem is based on previous research, research gaps, scientific research, and then we will get to know how to write a proper research problem. The second very common mistake is also the poorly structured objectives. What do you mean by that is that many students, they don't know how to structure the objectives that they are going to conduct. For example, there is no alignments whatsoever with the research objectives and what they have claimed in, for example, the introduction or the research problem or the methodology. So most of the students will don't even know whether their research is quantitative or qualitative, because when you want to structure the objective, you need to at least know whether this research is quantitative or qualitative or actually mixed method. Okay, so this is one of the poorly structured objective, one of the biggest mistake. And then can you guys please mute so that it will not disturb the sound? Thank you. Thirdly, we have a weak justification of the study. As I mentioned, most of the students will reflect the reasons or the justification based on their experience. For example, if they are teachers, they will try to write as they are telling about themselves based on their research knowledge. And this is what I've noticed, and this is what I've seen. This is not how we justify our research. And also misalignment between methodology and research questions. I always say that whether it's proposal or a thesis, PhD thesis or master thesis, you need to deal with it as, the title is the control panel, okay? The control panel. This title has the main, let's say, variable of the study. The title must be the title must be related or aligned with the research questions. Let's say I have 3 variables in my title, all right? Online learning, for example, student satisfaction, student achievement, okay? So I need to have research questions 1 and 2 and 3 to address these variable and the correlation between these variables. All right. Let's say I have more than or mixed method, more than one methodology at a time. I need to align that in research 4. So each research question will address one variable, or if there is a correlation between them. And also it need to address the methodology as well, so that it will be aligned with chapter 3, research methodology. When you start writing research methodology in chapter 3, you will say that this is how I am going to figure out how to solve or how to answer research question 1. So it will be one section for research question number 1, another section for research question number 2 and 3, and so on. So everything in research need to be aligned. Title, questions, objectives, and all the chapters following, okay? So the misalignment is a huge problem when it comes to PhD students. They wouldn't even know. They would write very good research questions, but ask them one question about how are you going to figure out or answer this from your study. They have no idea. Okay, whether these research questions are quantitative or qualitative, they don't know. They tell you, I have, for example, I have a survey and I have an interview. And then when you ask them which of these research questions will be answered by the survey and which will be answered by the interview, they will tell you, oh, maybe we can triangulate everything together. No, triangulation is something else. You need to be very clear with research questions and the alignment with the methodology and results. Everything needs to be connected. The research question number 1, the answer, the results, and then the discussion. All right. Finally, one of the common mistakes is the lack of theoretical framework. And I have seen this a lot. If you are from social science or humanities, anything related to humans, all right, we need to build our research based on a theoretical framework. We cannot simply write chapter 1 and the draft and the proposal and I'm done without a theory. Theory will tell you how to write the title. So you need to come out with a theory, the idea, the theory, and then from there you come out with the title. And then the title will tell you the approach, the methodology, all right? How to write the research objectives. Because without a theory, we'll be lost. You don't even know your variable of the research, right? So theory is very important. We will discuss that on details later on. All right. So let's say the most significant issue with research in general and research writing research proposal is writing a strong research problem. Why it's important? Because it will reflect the significance of your study. It will show that this is worth of conducting or it's just a waste of time. So what I basically do is I, let's say, divide the research problem into 3 main paragraphs. 3 main paragraphs, okay? The research problem is different from background of the problem, okay? You need to be able to, let's say, differentiate between these two. And also there is an approach for writing a research problem. Okay, it's called CAR model for developing a research problem. And why this is important? Because it will simply divide the methodology of writing the research problem. For example, the first paragraph, what is already known about your research? If I am conducting a research about online learning, the same example, and its correlation to student achievement in the area, how I'm going to measure student achievement, satisfaction, whatsoever, based on online learning, for example. So I need to dig in for the existing literature, what they are saying about this. What are they addressing about this subject? So it's already known and where they have stopped. Okay, but when we look for literature in research problem, we need to make sure that it's up to date, not irrelevant area or focus, simply because if you cite literature in your research problem let's say, more than 5 or 7 years. What's the point? Seriously, you just think about it. What is the point of citing or arguing about something that is already been published for over than 7 or 6 years? So it's pointless. So especially when you are dealing with something trendy like AI, online learning. So you need to be up to date with your literature. So the first paragraph within 200, 250 words, it will only be about the existing literature, what they say, what they claim about this subject. Now, when you show the reader that you have come out with a summary of the most recent, prestigious publications about the current subject that you are going to address, I need you to come out with your own argument now based on this literature, identifying the gap. So when you come out with the literature is rich, is very important in research. That's why it will tell you where to go. All right. So from the literature in the first paragraph, you will go on to be able to identify the gap. Okay, based on this research from 2022, 2025, Ismail, Ahmad, blah, 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 they come out with, or they stopped at this certain point. So there is a gap here. And my research is stepping in to find a solution for this gap. So what is missing in this literature provided, it will be the gap of the research. Now, when you identify, let's say, I call it the data, all right, in the first paragraph, literature, most recent literature review, and then identifying the gap. Thirdly, you come out with the contribution of this study, all right, which will be based on the gap and the literature together. So this study aimed to investigate the relationship, for example, between, or the correlation between e-learning and student achievement in whatever classroom settings. Okay, so research problem, avoid being lengthy. We are not talking about the quantity here. We are talking about the quality of writing. Okay, so instead of writing a pointless research problem in 2 or 3 pages, just focus on 1 page, 1.5, not more than 500 words or 700 words maximum in 3 paragraphs. Okay, and always end the research problem with the research contribution. What is this research going to contribute to the body of knowledge? All right, I hope it's clear so far. Okay, now after the research problem, we have the research objectives, and I also have a way of, I'm always looking for, like, shortcuts, approaches to address or to write. For example, in the introduction, I always mention in my workshops about the reverse triangle approach, where in the introduction, we follow a reverse triangle. Literally, it's a reverse because we start from the wide perspective of the topic, generally worldwide, addressed by worldwide researchers, and then we go on to be more specific on the second paragraph about the main variable of this study that we are going to address. And then thirdly, it will be the head of the triangle, where it will highlight the main objective of this study. Okay, when it comes to research problem, as I mentioned, we follow CAR or CARS model to write the research problem, which will be, as I mentioned, in 3 paragraphs. What is known, the study gap, and then the contribution. Now, with the objectives, there is a shortcut for SMART. SMART comes from specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. What do you mean by that? Research objective and research questions are very, very significant in academic writing. Why? Because you cannot simply ask questions that we can answer by yes or no. Okay? So you can evaluate yourself as a researcher. Before you go to your supervisor, is my or are my research objective or questions suitable? Are they okay? You read them first. If the answer is yes or no, then they are not good research questions or objectives. Let's say I want to formulate a research questions right now about the main topic, the main example that I've been talking about. Let's say, does the academic achievement of the students or e-learning platforms enhance the academic achievement of the students? If the answer is yes or no, then I cannot specify this as a research questions. But if the research question needs to be investigated first, because I don't know if it's going to be increasing student achievement unless I do my research and I collect my data. Now, this is a research questions. But if the answer is yes or no, it's not specific, okay? Also, it should be measurable, which means that how this success will be determined. So basically, we follow a scale to identify the answers of the participants. And also achievable. We need to be realistic. Some of the students have a major problem, which is that they think doing research or doing PhD, they are going to solve everything. Their research is going to be, gold. It's all right, but since you are, or once you finish your research, it's not significant anymore unless it's for you. So don't think too much and don't expect so high. Don't set your expectations so high. So you need to be realistic when it comes to research questions. Also, because you don't want to open closed doors. Some of the students will think, I will do this and this and this and that, and it comes out their PhD is 6 or 7 years. Okay, so it's called PhD because you need to focus on very, very specific, area that you need to just expose the problem and come out with your own intervention. That's all. Right? So this is the main difference from, let's say conducting a master or a PhD. In your master degree, you are not required actually to come out with a solution. Exposing the problem is fine. That's why most of the master students will just collect data, analyze the data, and discuss the results as there is a problem in this area. That's it. But in PhD, you are required to do something, a step more, which is the intervention of the study. Right? This intervention will not be only exposing the problem, but also you are trying to figure out a solution for this. Whether the solution worked or didn't, it's not your problem. You did your work. All right? Also, it should be relevant, directly related to the research problem. As I mentioned, and I always say this to all my students, everything in your research needs to be connected. Title, objective, questions, and research problem. After that, if this is the draft that you have all connected together, and then when you do the data collection and discussion, it will be connected as well based on the research problem and the research questions. Okay. Now let's talk about a bit more about the how to connect the research question. Before I move on, do you guys have any questions? Anyone have any questions? All right. Now, how do we connect research questions with methodology? As I mentioned in the first slide, it's very, very important that you know it's very important that all my research is connected to each other. I need to understand my research questions and research objective, whether this research will be quantitative or qualitative or even mixed method. Okay, for example, if I have a question, how do students perceive online learning in blah, blah, blah setting and so on? Okay, since I ask by how, then the answers will be by numbers. Okay, qualitative, right? Qualitative. So since I asked by how, so I'm looking for deep answers. How do students perceive online learning? How do I know the answers from the students? The only way to know how is to sit with them face to face, interview them, or whether online, interview these students and ask them and extract the information from the students. Okay, so this is what we call qualitative, because we are talking about qualitative. Quality means qualitative. Okay, why it's quality? Because we are looking for in-depth information. It's not only the numbers, yes or no, or maybe a scale from 1 to 5. No, in qualitative, we sit with the students, we interview them, we understand the problem deeply. We ask them about reflection, their perspective. Okay, so for example, how do students perceive online learning? What do you think about this experience after studying in e-learning for the last semester? So the students will express their answers. And then I will not stop there. I will ask more questions for the students. What do you think is the more challenging in online learning? What do you think is, let's say, will burden you from conducting or even learning online? And then how to solve it? Do you have any like recommendations, anything that I could help you with to get over with these challenges? Okay, this is the qualitative part. Now, when I'm talking about qualitative, I need to align this in my methodology. So when I go to chapter 3, research question number 1 will be qualitative. So this is the way that is going to be conducted, whether it's a case study, interview, analysis, whatever instrument that I'm going to use. And then we have quantitative. So it's very important for you to understand from the beginning, from day one, which approach are you going to use? Qualitative, quantitative, or you're going to mix them all together? Quantitative, as I mentioned, is all about numbers, right? Yes or no? Scale from 1 to 5 is measurable variables. For example, what is the correlation? It's always a relationship, all right? Correlation between this and this. Online engagement and test score. E-learning platforms and students' achievements. face-to-face student, and maybe anxiety. So it's quantitative, all right? Now, as a PhD researcher, it's different. You can use one of them. You can use qualitative or quantitative. But what's even more is to use them both. And this is what we call as a mixed method. How this mixed method works? Simply by dividing the research questions. So you see now how important the research questions are. So let's say I have 5 research questions. The first 3 research questions, it's going to be quantitative through a survey or a questionnaire, all right? And to even understand this topic more, I'm going to have an additional research question, which is number 4, that is going to be qualitative. How this works, let's say I am a teacher and I have my students studying online. And I'm going to measure 1, 2, 3, for example, variable. So I'm going to distribute a questionnaire, and then I'm going to collect the data. These questionnaire questions will answer the first 3 research questions. This is all examples, okay, guys? Now let's say that I collected data from 300 students, and I conducted the analysis. I come out with the results, and I sorry, I what we say that I noticed that there is a huge problem with one of these variables. For example, the academic achievement. The answers is very low, unlike the other 2 variable, 1 and 2. So what should I do now in this case? I will interview 10 of these 300 students. So I will take them purposefully, all right? On purpose, I will select, let's say, 20 or 15 of them, the one who actually answered the survey in the first place. So I will pick 10 or 15 of them to interview them, to get more in-depth information about this topic. If I do that, this is what we call mixed method. All right. So basically, mixed method, well, the qualitative part will be like a continuous for the quantitative part, so that it will give me a triangulation of the data. What do you mean by triangulation of the data? The data that will support the previous. For example, the qualitative or the qualitative will support the quantitative. Then I come out with my own framework or model or guidelines. Okay, so this is what I mean by research methodology. Now, how this is related to research questions? Basically, because they need, each research question, they need to come out with, when you write the research question, you need to come out with the methodology that will going to be addressing this research question in particular. So it's very important for you to address it from the day that you wrote this research questions. All right, so we have talked about the introduction. We have talked about the research problem, research objective, and questions. Now, how do I structure a winning research proposal? First of all, before you write the research proposal, you need to do some research on your supervisor and your university. Let's say you are in a school of education in UK, all right? And then you are targeting this, or you are writing this research proposal to get, for example, an offer letter. You want to enroll there. So you need to study your supervisor, his publication, his research interest, and only then you can come out with a title. Do not go to AI simply and try to come out with a research proposal that simple. It will be rejected. Okay, this is one example. Second example is that if you are writing a research proposal for your master or PhD, it's very important to be in communication with your supervisor. He needs to be updated step by step. Hopefully your supervisor will be helpful, then he will go through the way step by step with you. So the first thing is the title. The title, once again, is the control panel of the whole research proposal. The title combines all the variable of your study, and also it will show the methodology and also the framework, the theoretical framework. So when I read the title, I would be able to at least know the main variable and the methodology that you are going to approach and which theory that you are depending your research on. Okay, so do not underestimate the title. Title is very, very important. It will give the impression of your proposal. All right. The abstract, I will leave it to later because it's the last thing that we write in our proposal. Do not write the abstract ahead. This is very wrong in so many ways. Okay, the abstract is is the summary of everything. When you wrote everything, you finally, before you go to submit, you write your abstract. And I'll show you the main components of the abstract. Okay, now we come to the introduction part. Introduction means introduction, research problem, research objectives, and in some universities, they require background of the problem, significance, and definitions. Okay, for the introduction, as I mentioned, we follow the reverse triangle approach, where you will be able to address all variable of your study from a worldwide perspective, and then you go on to be more specific, and then what is this study is going to contribute. Research problem, as I mentioned, we follow the CER or CARS model. Objective, we follow SMART approach. And let's talk a bit about the background of a problem. What's the difference between research problem and the background of problem? Research problem, as I mentioned, is a very, very concise information, starting with the literature, the gaps, and then the contribution. The background is what we call mini literature review. So it's a mini literature, like chapter 2, mini literature in your introduction, but we only mention research gaps. So we do not summarize everything when it comes to research. We only be looking at research gaps. And this is the background problem, structure. Okay. Any questions? Do we have any questions for chapter 1? Okay, nice.
Yes, sir, please.
Yes, please. Go ahead.
Doctor, you mentioned earlier, at few seconds earlier, that the background is a mini literature review. So we only mentioned the research gaps. You
Yes.
mean the literature, the gaps that we find in the literature review, then we find our gap from there, or what? Can you clarify that, please?
Okay. the research problem, the background of the research problem. Why we call it a mini research, mini literature review? Because we try to summarize a literature review, but based on research gaps. What do you mean by that? Is whatever research gaps that are related to our work, or it will support the idea that I am discussing. For example, you are claiming that online learning is not working well when it comes to student achievement, for example. So you are claiming that students will not achieve well in online learning. They will achieve just well in face-to-face settings, for example. Okay? Now, to be able to claim such a claim is to come with a literature that will support this claim. Okay, so we will focus about this claim very much in the background of the problem, whether it's happening worldwide, in your country, it's happening in Zoom, happening in WebEx, different platform. But the results is that there is a gap in achieving well in online learning. So students prefer face-to-face classes. Okay, so this is the background of the problem. I will be talking about it in details, avoiding any, distraction. Let's say there are some research that will be talking about a gap that's happening in e-learn and student anxiety. I have nothing to do with this. And this has nothing to do with my research gap. Okay, so in the background of the problem, I need to be very, very selective, very focused with the claim that I have. So it's very, very specific. What differs the background of the problem from literature review? In literature review chapter, I talk about everything. But in the background, I need to be very concise. And I need to divide it also into main headings and subheadings. Okay, as I mentioned here, for example, if I'm talking about this problem, I need to talk about it globally, right? What's happening all around the world in the most recent studies. Only then I narrow it down to address the problem that is happening in my country, in my school, in my university. All right? I hope I answered your question.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. Now, if you are done this so far, it will be great because chapter 1 is the main structure of the house. If chapter 1 is okay, then anything else will be able to be fixed. But if the problem in chapter 1, then you need to redo the work. Okay, that's how we get minor correction and major correction and proposal defense. If you are looking for minor correction, chapter 1 need to be neat, no problem whatsoever, very clear, very concise. If you have any other problems in chapter 2, chapter 3 also, they will be fixed, no problem. But if there is major issues in research questions, objective research problem, they will simply ask you to redo your work. All right. Chapter 1 is, without a doubt, is the most important chapter, whether in the proposal defense, in the viva, in the whole thesis. Okay. However, literature review is actually I am in love with literature review. I love literature review, and my students know that. Why? Because it will simplify your life. It will make your life easy. If you do a rich literature review chapter, everything else will be easy for you. How? First of all, in my PhD and my master students, I always ask for the systematic literature review from them. Once they do it, they will be exposed to the most recent relevant studies to their research. When they know that, they can simply come out with a brilliant research problem. They can simply formulate their own research questions and objectives. Because in academia, like it or not, reading is the key. Since you don't read, you are not going places. All right? So you need to read. Reading is number one task in your life in academia. Now, in literature review, if you are, let's say, in your chapter 1, you come out with a systematic literature review, you are able to summarize research objective, research questions, most common instruments in your research, methodologies, approaches. So that's why I love literature review. It will enlighten the way. Okay. So what do I need to write in literature review? In the proposal. The proposal is different from the thesis, for example, because literature review in your thesis will be around more than 50 or 70 pages, but in your proposal, make it short and sweet. How to do that? We need to follow a strategy as well. What this strategy is, first of all, always remember again that the research chapters are very connected. Do not make literature review, out of the game. Okay, let's say we have 5 research questions. Try to write literature review in 5 main sections. Okay, let's say the first research question is about online achievement and e-learn and all this kind of stuff. So the main section for literature review will be about e-learning and academic achievement as well. Under that, you will have subtopics about e-learning itself, about academic achievement itself. Okay, what I'm trying to tell you is that even in chapter 2, when we come out with the main headings and the subheadings, they need to be related and connected to the research questions as well, so that when we move on to chapter 3, each research question will have its own section as well. So you see, it's very connected. Now, if you remove research question number 1 from chapter 1, and then you remove section 1 from literature review, and you remove the methodology part for research question 1, you come out with your own publication. If your work is organized. Now, I'm talking about later when you submit your thesis and you come out with your PhD thesis, okay? So from now on, you need to be organized when it comes to writing. All right, any questions? I need to hear any feedback from you. Yes, go ahead.
If I may ask, is the systematic literature review is the new trend right now? Thank you, bro.
Yes, it's actually not a trend because it's been there for quite some time. But yes, many researchers are actually preferring systematic literature review nowadays because it is something quick, hard but quick. And you don't need to deal with humans collecting data, analyzing data and stuff. So you only need to analyze articles and other researchers' work. So it's very actually something very good, and you can publish it as well in Q1 and Q2 journals. So why not? I personally like systematic literature review more than research papers.
Okay, thank you, bro.
Yes. All right. Now the third part of the proposal, which is of high importance as well, the methodology part. But as I mentioned, if you have any issues with your literature review, the examiners will simply say you need to update your research. You need to update your literature review. Your literature review is not really written in a let's say critique way. It's like a book. So avoid writing in let's say book style. We are totally different. In literature review, you need to show your argument, your style of writing. Okay, and one of the reasons as well why literature review is important, because it will not only help you in chapter 1, but later on when you analyze the data and you want to write the discussion. What discussion is? Discussion is comparing the current results with previous research. Where do I get previous research? Chapter 2. If you don't have a good chapter 2 literature review, you will not be able to write discussion as well. So it's failing you. All right. So literature review, guys, very, very significant in research. And also for your, like general common culture. If you want to be exposed to the area that you are actually conducting, literature review is the answer, right? All right, the third part, as I mentioned, let's see. Okay, do we have questions in the chat? I don't know how to, where's the chat? Wait. Oh, okay. Oh, we have a lot of questions. I have a question. If I am doing 2 study, okay, one study is quantitative and one study is qualitative. Instead of one study that have a mixed method study, how do I write my research question and methodology style? Okay, this one, as I mentioned earlier, what you need to do is you need to divide the research questions based on the methodology. Let's say you have 2 research questions for quantitative. Third one will be for the qualitative. Last research question will be the contribution, right? So the last research question will be based on the triangulation of the data from both quantitative and qualitative, all right? Oh, another question. If my title only includes methodology, variable, and no theoretical framework, is it still applicable? Yeah, it depends. Depends on many factors, actually. First, if the title is too long, then you no need to write the theoretical framework. But you need to address the theoretical framework in chapter 1. That's for that's for sure. Okay. But if you like, let's say your title is very long and you are required actually to limit it, maybe if I'm not mistaken, 15 words, not more than that. But it's better if you highlight the framework, especially if it's something common, very standard theory in your area. Okay. Prof, is the problem statement could be more than one problem? How? The problem statement can be one than more problem. We need to be very specific with the research problem. That's why I said, do not open closed doors. Okay? Just focus on one research problem and that's all. If you, because if you are looking for more, there's always problems. Problems never ends. Okay? So I want you to focus on only one. We have to put the theoretical framework, conceptual framework in chapter 2. Okay, this question is actually varied. The answer is varied because it depends on the university. Some universities, like UTM, for example, they put both framework and conceptual framework in chapter 2, chapter 1. This is UTM. But universities like for example, they put it in chapter 2. So this is what I said at the beginning. You need to refer to the university template before you start writing. Okay? All right, now let's discuss about the methodology part, which is the last part for the proposal. Because always remember, the proposal always will be in a future tense. We'll do this, we'll do that. You are not there yet, but you are proposing something, okay? So that's why if you have a problem in the methodology, in the proposal, it will be okay. They will ask you to do and fix it. But if you have a problem in the methodology in your thesis during the viva, you are done. There is no way back. All right. So methodology can be still, adjusted, updated, whatever, fixed in the proposal defense. But if they figure out, the examiners figure out that you have a critical issue in the methodology part in your viva, then that's a very major correction, 1 year redo of your research. That's why we need to be focused from now, okay? Now, writing the methodology, it's not something random, guys, okay? It's not, it's far away from being random. You need to know exactly what are you going to write. If you are dealing with kindergarten students, it's not logic that you choose the qualitative part. You are not interviewing 5 years old students, okay? All right. And if you are looking for something practical, you want to do more investigation, you want to get in-depth information, then you can apply both quantitative and qualitative. So from there, you come out with your design, the research design. And from there also, you will be exposed to what samples or who are my samples. Okay? Because sometimes when you know your samples, you will be guided directly to the correct approach, whether quantitative or qualitative or even mixed method. Okay? In the proposal, we don't have data yet, right? So we don't need to talk about data collection and analysis because we don't have analysis, but we will be writing as a plan in the future how this data will be collected. I'm going to be collecting the data, for example, from 10th grade students through Google forms, or maybe physical, whatever. So whatever in the future that you have a plan to collect the data, you will write it in the methodology part. And also for the analysis, you will be writing about the common tests statistical test that you are going to use to address these research questions. Any questions for the methodology part? Any questions? All right. Now we have expected contributions. Now, this is actually depends on the template.
Excuse me, Prof. Are you sharing the screen?
Sorry, yes?
Are you sharing the screen? Because I can't see.
Oh,
Yeah, okay, nice. Thank you.
all right. Okay, where did I go? Okay. Once again, this is based on the template of the university, whether they want you to write the expected contribution of the proposal as a separate section or in chapter 2 as the main objective of the study. All right. Now for the references and ethics, references, once again, it's based on the template of the university. So you need to make sure whether they are following APA style, for example, or IEEE. For ethics, now if we are dealing with, especially if you are doing qualitative, you need to come out with ethics letters from the university that will allow you to collect the data. That's number one. And also, you need a consent from the participants that you are interviewing, informing that you are not exposing any kind of data whatsoever, personal information about the participants in your thesis or your proposal. All right. And all the information will be hidden. All right. Now let's go back to the abstract. We are done now. We have the title, we have chapter 1, 2, and 3. And then we need to write the abstract. Abstract must be a mirror of your proposal. If I am a reader and reading your abstract, I should understand the whole thing. Which means that a good abstract will contain of 5 main areas or elements. Number 1 is the background. What do I mean by background is a short, very short introduction of the subject. Because sometimes students will make, even researchers will write abstract, the background will be 5 or 6 lines. Don't do that. It's like a waste of space. You need this space because abstract is mostly 200 words. You are allowed for 200, maybe 250, that's it. So you need these words to reflect your research, to make the reader admire your work. If he or she admires the abstract, then they will continue reading. So number 1 is the background, only 1 or 2 lines, very short and concise introduction of the topic. For example, or the same example that I've been talking about, achievement and online learning. Online learning has been used in all educational institutions globally, especially after COVID-19, blah, blah, blah. Very short, but concise introduction. All right. And then we have the main objective. This is number 2 in the abstract. Then, when you are done with the background, you will directly state that this study aims to, and then you will state the main objective of the study. Right? After the objective, how are you going to achieve this objective? Through the methodology. So this study applied quantitative approach or qualitative or a mixed method to address the main research objective. The sample will be blah, blah, blah. Okay, the research design is blah, 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 and so on. All right, so background, main objective, what? Methodology. And then what is the results based on this methodology? I'm going to highlight, because the results mostly are quite big, I'm going to highlight the most impactful, meaningful results in my research. That's number 4. Finally, I will end up with recommendation and future work. Okay? Based on the study, on the current study results, the researcher would like to recommend 1, 2, 3. All right? If you follow this way in writing the abstract, it will be very concise and very actually, me as a reader, I will admire reading your work. Okay. Now, what to avoid in writing your proposal after you are exposed with the main structure? Do not over complicating the proposal. Always try to make your life easier, okay? Do not look for some questions or some concerns that will only complicate your life. And as I mentioned, there must be a connection between the chapters to avoid any logical flow of the writing. And weak literature review, which is the most thing that I personally hate. If the proposal has outdated literature review, I would not continue reading, honestly. Okay. And finally, do not misalign between the problem objective and methods. Everything must be connected. So once you take one thing, one research questions, everything that is related to this research questions should be able to take out as well, right? Okay, guys, any questions? Do we have any research questions in the chat as well? Any questions? Okay, since we don't have any questions, I would like to...
I have questions, sir.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. In general, how many words or pages do we have to write in our proposal?
Okay, now this is totally up to the university to decide, because a research proposal in some universities like UTM, for example, it will be around 70 pages, for example. Other universities, 50 or 40 will be enough. Okay, so this is based on, first, the university template and guidelines, instructions, and also your supervisor. Okay.
Okay, sir. So as a PhD student, it's around 80,000 words for the thesis. How many words should be for the proposal? Is it around 50,000 words or less than that?
Once again, it's actually 50 pages will be fine for the proposal from my point of view. As soon as you cover all the essentials, elements, and components in your proposal. And also there is an alignment in chapter 1 and 2 and 3.
because I already have reached around 60 words and I'm still writing. The supervisor asked me to write more. That's why I'm confusing. I said it's just a proposal, but according maybe to my university, it's
How many pages so far?
around for me now without the references. I already have around 60 pages.
60. How many pages for chapter 1?
I'm not sure about that. It's more than 10 pages, I
Yeah.
guess.
You see, this is the point. You need to be able to, let's say, balance between the chapters. So I cannot have
Okay.
chapter 1 as 10 pages, chapter 2 like 50, and chapter 10 pages. So that's why she is asking you to write more, because there is no balance and all the writing will be focused on chapter 2. Do not waste so much time on chapter 2 for now, because you will update it later on.
Okay.
So
Okay, sir.
the main thing is to come out with a strong chapter 1.
Okay. I got
Yeah.
it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. At the end of the workshop, I just want to go through the Master of Education program. If you are interested, or anyone that you know would be interested, this is the program that I am leading at Sunway University School of Education. It's actually a part-time program for 24 months, and we have 5 intakes per year: January, March, May, July, and September. What you need to do is you need to study 10 subjects only. These subjects will be delivered 100% online through the eLearn platform. We have core subject, 7 core subjects that you need to study. And the good thing is that we do not provide these subjects all at once. So you need to study one course at a time for 7 weeks. When you are done with the course, you will move on to the next course and so on. Okay, so 7 core subjects, and you need to select or pick one elective as well. And you have 2 research projects, 1 or 2, where you will be able to do a mini research. Okay, so how we do that? Through eLearn. eLearn is type of LMS, learning management system. Once you get your profile, you will be exposed to all data, resources, and the course content as well. These are the entry requirements, simple as 2.5 GPA. If you have less than that, but you have 5 working experience in education or relevant field, you are eligible to enroll. Okay, so this is our program. If you have any questions, if you want to know more, if you want to enroll in this ODL program, please feel free to email or contact me personally. Since we don't have a question, guys, thank you very much for joining for today's session. I wish you all the best, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, Prof.
Thank you, guys. Bye. Nabila?